Welcome to The Critique. Today, we are reviewing a script submission from Vangelina Skov, analyzing the reignited conflict between YouTubers Gabbie Hanna and Jessi Smiles, focusing on allegations of assault, apologism, and blackmail. We have a lot of structural ground to cover, so let's get straight to the feedback.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
Looking at the opening, this script relies entirely too heavily on the audience's existing knowledge of the Gabbie Hanna versus Jessi Smiles lore, which really undermines the impact of the specific evidence being presented.
Yeah, that stood out to me right away.
And the weakness here is primarily structural. It's about the barrier to entry for the viewer. I mean, the narrative just jumps between the current date, which is February 2026, then back 4 years to the release of Jessi's video in 2022, and then all the way back to the original events in 2014 and 2015.
Right, all without establishing a clear baseline.
Exactly. The script assumes the listener knows exactly who Curtis Lepore is, who Jen Dent is, what the drama channels are, and, what the whole Snapchat incident implies.
Yeah.
By diving straight into what the author calls a condensed version, which is actually quite complex, the gravity of the betrayal is just lost in the details.
It really is. It's a classic case of the curse of knowledge. The writer knows the story so well they forget what it's like to hear it for the first time. My suggestion is that the piece needs a contextual anchor at the very beginning.
Okay, a contextual anchor.
Yeah, something that establishes the stakes before the timeline jumping begins. Instead of a muddy summary, create a rigid, distinct timeline of events. The assault, the betrayal involving the photos, the confrontation on the call, and the aftermath regarding the blackmail.
I like that. So how do we make that actionable, concrete example?
Well, currently the script just says something like, Jessi had been assayed by a man called Curtis, and Gabbie was seen hanging around him. She had said some vile stuff.
Which is pretty vague.
Way too vague for a newcomer or even someone who tuned out around 2023. An actionable change would be to structure the intro like a case file. You could say, in 2014, Jessi Smiles was assaulted. In 2015, her best friend, Gabbie Hanna, was photographed with the assailant. In 2020, Gabbie allegedly attempted to blackmail Jessi into silence. Today, in 2026, Gabbie has reopened the wound.
Wow. Okay, that definitely clarifies the stakes immediately.
Right? It changes the tone from internet gossip to historical documentation. And to build on that, look at the Snapchat incident. The script mentions Gabbie claiming she only saw him a few times, and then mentions a photo at a diner.
Yeah, I remember that part.
But the significance is buried. You need to clarify why the distinction matters immediately. Don't let the audience guess. State clearly. The first photo was a public encounter. The second photo proves a private choice to socialize with her best friend's abuser. Bridge that gap for the listener.
That makes total sense. Moving on to our next point, the pacing of the commentary suffers significantly during the receipts sections, where the host reads long blocks of text messages and emails verbatim.
Oh, the wall of text, yes.
Exactly. That's the weakness here. There are these extended sequences where the script just reads Jessi's narration or the text exchanges regarding the NDA and the apology terms without any break.
Right, and the listener is stuck doing all the parsing.
Exactly. It dilutes the tension. The listener has to sift through the legalese and negotiation tactics themselves. Reading a line like, I am not willing to say there that there were untruths in a monotone quote read just slows the momentum right when the tension should be at its absolute highest.
Yeah, you risk boring the audience. The suggestion here is to utilize a highlight and synthesize technique.
Highlight and synthesize.
Right. Instead of reading the full correspondence, summarize the setup and then quote only the smoking gun lines that actually prove the manipulation. Treat the scriptwriter as an editor, not just a narrator.
Okay, give me a concrete example of how that would look in practice.
Currently, the script reads the entire back and forth about the NDA. It covers Jessi saying she's willing to take down the video, make a joint statement, but refusing to lie. It's a dense paragraph.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in verbally.
So the actionable change is to paraphrase that negotiation. Just say, Jessi offered a mutual NDA and a mutual apology. She offered everything short of lying about her own trauma.
Oh, that's much cleaner.
And then you hit the audience with the specific text from Gabbie. If you don't like the idea, then we just continue on how we are.
That punchline hits so much harder when it's isolated like that.
Exactly. It turns a document reading into a dramatic beat. Also, focus on the 48-hour window ultimatum. Right now, it's buried in the preamble of an email reading. Cut straight to the threat. Say, Gabbie gave a 48-hour deadline to comply or she would release damaging information. Highlighting the power dynamic is way more effective than reading the full-text stream.
Okay, that brings us to the tone of the commentary itself. The material frequently defaults to repetitive moral judgments rather than dissecting the psychological or manipulative tactics at play.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
The weakness here is that the script often pauses the source material just to say variations of, "this is sick," or "she is vile," or "she is narcissistic."
Right, like after the apology clip.
Exactly. After Gabbie demands an apology, the commentary is just, "she's so me. Everything's about my pain." And while those reactions are understandable, they don't add analytical value. Repeatedly calling Gabbie delusional tells the audience how to feel, rather than showing them why the behavior is contradictory.
And that's the difference between a simple reaction channel and a true video essay. My suggestion is to replace those emotional outbursts with behavioral analysis. Use those pauses to point out specific contradictions or gaslighting techniques.
What's a concrete example of how the writer can apply that behavioral analysis?
Let's look at the part where Gabbie claims she wants a public apology because she publicly apologized for a situation that should have been private. The current script just calls this behavior selfish.
Right.
The actionable change is to point out the transactional nature of Gabbie's empathy. Analyze how she frames her silence as a service she provides, which she can revoke at any time. It's not an apology, it's a negotiation tactic. That's a much richer point than just saying she's
What about the victim-blaming section?
Oh, that is a perfect opportunity to discuss the specific tactic of DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Instead of just saying she is crazy, explain that Gabbie is claiming she is the one being abused because Jessi won't silence her friends. Turn it into an educational moment about manipulation tactics.
That's excellent. And that leads us perfectly into the specific handling of the Jen Dent subplot. The section regarding the Jen Dent and Australia rumors is presented in a chaotic manner that completely distracts from the core argument about Gabbie and Jessi.
It really gets into the weeds there.
It does. The weakness is that the script dives into this complex subplot involving a random guy from Australia, false allegations against Jen Dent, and Gabbie's fans calling nursing boards. It displays the host's deep knowledge, but it's presented so rapidly and with so much inside baseball jargon, like calling someone a pee-pee-poo-poo troll, that it just feels like a fever dream.
It really muddies the water?
Yeah, it completely distracts from the primary conflict, which is the blackmail regarding the podcasts.
My suggestion here is to frame this section strictly as evidence of scorched earth tactics, rather than getting lost in the specific details of the internet trolls. Keep the focus on the leverage.
So how do we restructure that chaotic section as a concrete example?
Well, the current approach details the specific tweet mechanics and the troll's response, which is frankly a bit silly out of context. The actionable change is to summarize this entirely. Just say, Gabbie's fanbase weaponized false criminal allegations against Jessi's friends to isolate Jessi.
That is so much more concise.
Right, because the specifics of the Australian troll are less important than the impact on Jen's nursing career. And you have to connect this back to the blackmail threat. The point isn't the rumor itself. The point is that Gabbie used the chaos surrounding these rumors as leverage.
To say, control your friends or I release the podcast.
Exact. That is the crux of the blackmail. Keep the focus on the leverage, not the internet drama. It shows Gabbie was willing to let her fans destroy a nurse's reputation just to get Jessi to sign an NDA. That is the actual story.
That shifts the whole genre, from YouTube drama to almost a psychological thriller. Let's recap the main points for the listener before we wrap up.
Sure.
The material clearly comes from an expert on the topic, but it needs to bridge the gap for the audience. The key fixes are, first, creating a rigid contextual anchor timeline to prevent confusion between 2014, 2022, and 2026.
Right.
Second, utilizing a highlight and synthesize technique to summarize text evidence rather than reading it verbatim. Third, replacing emotional insults with behavioral analysis, like identifying DARVO or transactional empathy. And finally, streamlining side plots like the Jen Dent saga to focus heavily on the central blackmail narrative.
I want to add that the passion in this script is clearly there, and the moral clarity is very strong. By tightening the structure, the host can really transform this from a standard reaction video into a definitive documentary analysis of the situation. It's just about making the evidence accessible and undeniable.
Absolutely. We would love to see how this script evolves. We invite the listener to submit the revised script, specifically the section analyzing the blackmail phone call itself, which we didn't get to fully dissect today, for a follow-up critique.
I'd really look forward to reading that.
Thank you for listening to the critique. We look forward to seeing your improved work.